Hello, everybody, and happy
Hello.
Friday.
Happy Friday.
So good to be with you on the back catalog listening party, the one time of the week where Tony and I know what day and time of the week it is. It's 4 p.m. Central on Friday, and it's time for the back catalog listening party where we invite different guest artists to join us and revisit old records and talk about them with you, and also pour a drink. And Tony, what are you drinking today on this Friday?
You know, I'm going back to the Surly coffee bender I had a couple weeks ago.
Minneapolis represent.
Yeah, and it's got a little caffeine in there. 4 o'clock straddles those two times, and this is the perfect combo.
I love it. And joining us today from Nashville, we have Carrie Elkin. And what are you drinking, Carrie?
Well, I was inspired by your post about blueberry simple syrup. So I'm having a blueberry gin fizz.
Fancy glass, too.
I will admit that I had to rush it a bit. So I also added some cocktail cherries.
Very nice.
It's delicious. How about you?
I am drinking, yes, I was posting about a blueberry simple syrup. Basically, Tony challenged me to do something colorful because it's kind of a gray day here in Minneapolis. So
Yeah, you came through.
Yeah, and so I had blueberries in the fridge, fresh ones. So I thought I should do something with it. So I cooked a blueberry simple syrup, mixed it with some vodka and some club soda, and then put some fresh berries and some sage, which I had left over from last week's drink. Or 2 weeks ago. I don't remember what
last week's drink.
Well, I had a special cocktail. I had a special cocktail with sage last week. So I had all this leftover like fresh sage in the fridge. So anyway, here
Awesome.
it is.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers. There's some other folks out here. Another notch in the old gin bottle.
Of course. Alan from Dallas.
Happy Friday.
Hi, Alan.
Hey, it is Beer 30, Chris. And Connie's in Richfield and Joe in South Minneapolis. And happy Friday. End of first semester. Grades are in. All right. Congratulations. That's worth
awesome.
a cheers right there. And
nice.
Jim says, hey, Carrie. And
hi, Jim.
Donna says hello from Florida.
Apalachicola.
I wasn't going to try to say that.
I mean, she's my mom, so.
There you go.
And Anne's drinking a China Doll from Wabasha Brewing. Oh, nice.
I know.
Nice.
And I want to write that down. That looks so good.
That sounds delicious.
Really good.
White chocolate, white stout.
What? Everyone's inspiring us today on this Friday. Well,
so into it.
Well, I'm so excited about today's show, Carrie, because I haven't seen you in a long time. In fact, I shared some photos today. I was going through photos, both from 2011, which is the time when you recorded the album we're going to talk about today, as well as the last time I was just going through photos on Facebook trying to think, when was the last time I saw Carrie? And I think it might have been it probably was Folk Alliance if you were there in New Orleans. But before that, you were in St. Paul for a gig at the Landmark Center.
I was.
And I had like Stan backstage, and I have this great photo of him looking like adoringly at you as you're like running through a tune with John Hermanson. And anyway, and I was thinking how happy I was to get to talk with you today especially about this record, because it's one of my favorites, and it was right around it wasn't long after I feel like we met, so I'm excited about this. This will be great.
Me too.
So for folks who don't know you or your music, maybe you could give us a little brief bio about how you started in music, because you didn't start in music, I know, and then maybe what led to this record.
Yeah, well, I started as a kind of, I wanted to be a doctor. I went to college to become a doctor, and then I wanted to be a brain surgeon, which makes me laugh all the time. But I ended up joining a band in college with these two guys. I would just sing with them. And then I had a guy that lived in my dorm who said, oh, you like to write poetry. You should learn how to play the guitar. And so I traded my saxophone in for my guitar, my first guitar in college. And he taught me how to play a few chords. And then I just fell in love with it. I just was like, oh my gosh, this is totally what I meant to do. And I knew, like, I've been singing my whole life, and it brought me a lot of joy. And when I went away to college originally, I wasn't really singing at all. And it was something that I was missing a lot. And I grew up singing in church, and in college, I wasn't going to church. And so I started playing, and then I actually dropped out of school for a while. Like I wrote 13 songs and dropped out of school and recorded a record called Simplicity. It's a terrible album, but I was very passionate, and I had this long journey of like, I worked as an organic chemist for many years. I ended up going back to school and getting a degree in physiology, and worked as a chemist, and then came back to music again because it was like the thing that I loved the most and wanted the most in my life. And so I figured out that I could do it. So I did it. And then this particular album came about because I was listening a lot to, we were discussing the Bruce Springsteen Seeger sessions, and I was obsessed with that record, the sound of it. And like, you know, it was a live record, everybody in one room. And I was like, well, how can I do this without the budget of Bruce Springsteen? And so I gathered some of my favorite players in Austin and some of my favorite friends, and found a home that I loved, that I wanted to record in, that inspired me. That was the home of an amazing songwriter named Sam Baker. And so we all gathered in his house. We recorded it in 4 days. So I was just inspired by that Seeger Sessions album, and then when it came together that we all ended up having these 4 days to spend together, it was some of my best friends, and we made music and we laughed so much. Anyway.
Well, this is a perfect segue to get to our first song here on the Back Catalog Listening Party, because it's the track that kicks off the record, and well, it might start with a little bit of some laughter and some of that, all the voices that you'll get to hear on it.
Sets
we'll talk
the
more
stage
about
nicely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, should we give it a listen?
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is Carrie Elkin, Jesse Likes Birds on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Jesse likes birds, red-winged blackbirds. Jesse likes a sparrow. Jesse likes a whippoorwill. Jesse likes the sound through the window of a mockingbird late at night. If that mockingbird don't sing, Mama gonna buy a diamond ring. Jesse likes wind. Jesse likes water. Jesse likes the sky. Jesse likes kiss. Jesse likes the sound from the window of a car passing by. If that mockingbird don't sing, Mama gonna buy a diamond ring. And if that diamond ring turns brass, Mama gonna buy you a looking glass. Jesse likes drums, Jesse likes fire, Jesse likes the soul, Jesse likes parades, Jesse likes the sound through the window in the distance of a soul parade. If that mockingbird don't sing, Mama gonna buy you a diamond ring. And if that diamond ring turns brass, Mama gonna buy you a looking glass. She said Jessie likes birds, red-winged blackbird. Jessie likes a sparrow. Jessie likes a whippoorwill. Jessie likes a mockingbird.
Wow. I don't know how much like extra tape there was before you faded out.
That was some hot picking right there.
I'd love to know how much more you had in that jam out. Like, did that go on for the next hour? Like, just the jam?
It went on forever. It was like it was great. And we were all like, yeah, it was the very.
So was that one like live take that like this was the song recorded? You know, since you were all in a room and especially that last section, did you sort of splice that in, or were you able to do that all in kind of?
That was one live take, and we just picked the part to sort of fade out.
Wow, that's amazing.
That sounded great.
So if you just tuned in, that was Carrie Elkin with Jessie Likes Birds from her 2011 Red House release, Call It My Garden, her first on that label. And that song, again, recorded all live with a whole host of people. In fact, if you look at the liner notes to the record, there's like 50 people listed or something as singing on that. But we have to know, because Tony and I both play banjo.
Yeah.
Who was the banjo player, and why was he so awesome?
His name is Trevor Smith. I actually think he's like one of the greatest banjo players I've ever met. And I think that other banjo players agree with that sentiment. I think that most like professional banjo players, if that's all they do, know who he is. He's like in the bluegrass world, pretty well known. He's really young too. I was trying to think of how old he was when he played on the record, and I think he was probably like 20 or 21 or something. Wow. And he lives in Austin. He's amazing. And we used to have we do have this little rental apartment behind our house, and he used to live there with his girlfriend. And so we'd get to hear a lot of banjo playing, which,
he was in another house, at least,
in another house. And also at least it was him. Like it could go both ways. And it was,
could go horribly wrong.
Oh man, that's like the only like really foot stomping song I have, I feel like. So I was like, oh my God, I could dance to one of my songs.
It's great to see you rocking out, and other people agreed there, and it sounded like there were some people clapping along out there.
And someone asked about whether Maisie sings along to this one. Jim asked that, and I was thinking, your husband Danny Schmidt, also a songwriter. So there's a lot of music in the house, especially these days, because all the concerts are from your house. But yeah, does Maisie sing along with that one, or does she? Because it seems like she's pretty into music, but I don't know if she's into your music or if she's just into other people's music.
Yeah, right. She's a little more into like a wagon wheel. She also Old Crow Medicine Show. This family got real into it especially with Maisie, and we've really enjoyed it. She's into our music for sure. She knows all the lyrics, and that song in particular she really likes. She also likes the really depressing ones, which makes me laugh because she sings along with like the saddest songs ever, and she's so serious when she sings them. But yeah, she's into our songs for sure. She knows the titles. She knows the scoop. Yeah,
Nice.
That's
nice,
awesome.
nice.
so.
Well, why don't you, again, we already talked about how it was recorded in one room, and I think we actually have some footage
Yeah,
from
let me
a
see-
video.
yeah, this was really cool. Carrie sent a little EPK you must have put together for this, and it's got a shot of all those people hanging out in the house. And I thought we'd try playing a little bit. We'll see if this works. I think it's so great to see how the magic actually was happening here.
A whole crew of folks came in and sang and were part of the community on Jessie Likes Words.
If that mockingbird don't sing, Mama gonna buy you a diamond ring. If that diamond ring turns brass, Mama gonna
Really is the whole
buy you a
neighborhood.
looking glass. If that looking glass is broke, Mama gonna buy you a billy goat. If that mockingbird don't sing, Jessie don't need no diamond ring.
Just being with community.
Very cool.
Very cool.
It's so funny. I have so many memories come back, but during that recording, because I have a fairly loud singing voice, and we were trying to like get me like I wanted to be able to see everybody, but I couldn't be in the same circle as everyone else, or else my vocal would have been all over everything. So I was in the kitchen. And we had to unplug the refrigerator because it kept like turning on and off during the recording. And I'm like hiding behind this thing. And my harmony vocalist was on the other side of this like bar area facing me and singing to me. And the rest of the band was like on the other side of the bar too, all in a circle. And it was so awesome. It was so... But getting it all set up was hilarious, and especially like the vocal booth that I needed. It's like hid in the kitchen with like the cutting boards. There's like an onion sitting over here, and the fridge is unplugged.
Well, we see the gamut here on after 40 some episodes here of big high budget studios and people doing it in their living rooms and stuff, and this might be the most the biggest kind of house party concert style recording we've seen here, and I think it's really, really cool that you were able to capture some of that. I'm going to put the link to that video in the comments. You guys can check it out after the show. It's really cool because you can also see the banjo player and the bass player and the drummer and everybody, and get a real sense for just how live that was. I mean, this is like you're sitting on the one guy's on the couch, the other guy's in the kitchen, and it's all happening in real time. And I think from the sound of it, production wise, it sounds fantastic. I knew it felt like it was live, and that's always one of my favorite questions on the show, because I think there's a different energy that happens when records are cut live. But to get it to not sound like it's in a small room is pretty amazing. Who was engineering and producing this? Because I think it really turned out really great.
So the engineer is a gentleman named Mark Addison from Ihrig Studios. He's an amazing engineer and producer in Austin. And the record was actually produced by Colin Brooks, who was in the band of Heathens for many years. He was one of the original members. He's an incredible singer-songwriter and someone I know from way back in the day when I lived in Taos, New Mexico. He used to run the open mic night in Taos. And so we started doing work together, and he had always said, "Oh, you need to move to Austin and I want to produce a record for you." And then it happened. And then my husband, Danny Schmidt, was also a co-producer on it. And Colin was sort of the band leader, and he's an absolutely amazing musician. And I recommend you look him up. He's now like a fisherman in Wyoming, which I so appreciate. And he still plays, but not in the way that he used to. And Danny was sort of, like our herding dog. Like he was like into the scheduling, and if anyone knows Danny, they could see him playing this role. And
He had spreadsheets going on, right?
there were a lot of
Awesome.
spreadsheets.
Awesome. I love the spreadsheets.
It was great. So they were a good team, and Danny also sat in during the mixing of the record, and he's really good at that part with just. It was, I think, probably a hard record to mix in a way. Like it was like so much going on, and so.
Well,
Yeah.
it definitely captured that live feel, but still, studio quality. It sounds great.
It was funny when I brought these songs to Red House. I remember like that song was one. It's interesting to think back on it now, because I remember I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of embarrassed about this one because it's not like a super like thoughtful and precious folk song, like, it doesn't feel like. And then I remember Eric from Red House at the time, he's like, oh, this song has to go on there, like it's so like it like belongs on this record. And I'm so glad that he said that, because it ended up becoming like one of my favorite songs on the album. Like I was so happy that he sort of pushed for it to be on there.
Well, and as I recall, that song would actually like topped the folk radio charts when it came out. So I mean, it was it continues to be popular, and I certainly play it a lot on my radio show. In fact, I did this week. So it's a perennial favorite of mine, and it's not just because of the banjo work. It's a great tune, and I want to give folks a chance to sample more of the records. I know we could chat about this stuff forever. And Matt Winters says, those are the stories that come back for at the back catalog listening party. It's true. That's what we like. And
thanks, Matt.
But we are going to dive into more of the record. And this next song that you picked to listen to from the album is Berlin. Is there anything you want to say about it before we take a listen?
Just that it's the third time that it's on a record. This is the third record that this song is on, because I never felt like we got it right. And this was like the song that I wrote that made me want to really play music for the rest of my life. And I also I felt like this song wrote me, and that was the first like experience I had ever had as a songwriter that happened. And John Hermanson from Story Hill sings on it. And that's actually the only not live vocal track. We sent the song to him, and he recorded his part on it. But it was really important to me to have him on it, because we had been touring together some, and I was really happy with the way it came out. So
awesome. And this is the final time that it was recorded. This is the
yeah, I'm all done. All done with this one.
No, I think that's super interesting, because sometimes it just doesn't come out right. Third time's the charm. This is Carrie Elkin, Berlin, on the back catalog listening party.
Girls like Berlin in the snow. The walls come a-falling, just as she knows to open up wide and show the side she's been meaning to show. And just like a candle outside, and goes out sometimes, it still shows the light of a light, the light of a child. It's been meaning to grow. And just as I've known you, you've shown me somehow, wearing back the braids, you were kissed like a child. And just as I've held you, you hold me somehow. The flow is our right, just let it go now. And just as I feel it from deep in this lung, I breathe it all clean. The center of you and the center of me, and the side we don't see. got an arm, she's got an arm like a frame. She'll wrap it around you and you never feel the pain. Lift it up high or scoop it down low. She's got nothing to show, no. But just like her window outside, the ball hits sometimes. It shatters in the night, it shatters the light. Oh, the light she's been meaning to grow. And just as I've known you, you've shown me somehow. Wearing back the braids, you were kissed like a child. Just as I've held you, you hold me somehow. The flow is outright, just let it go now. Just as I feel it from deep in this lung, I can breathe it all clean. The center of you and the center of me, and the side we don't see. Girls like Berlin in the snow. The walls come falling just as she knows to open up wide and show the side she's meaning to show. Just as I've known you, you've shown me somehow. Wearing back the braids, you were kissed like a child. Just as I've held you, you hold me somehow. The flow is outright, just let it go now. And just as I feel it from deep in this lung, I can breathe it all clean. The center of you and the center of me, and the side we don't see.
Berlin by Carrie Elkin from her 2011 release, Call It My Garden. And we had some discussion offline before today's show whether it was 2011 or 2009. But we have determined that the album did come out in 2011. But I know memories are weird things. You're like, when did I do that? I don't know. Especially right now. We
I
don't
mean,
know
what year
day
is it? What year is it?
I don't know. But I love that song. And one thing I really, and a lot of great comments. And by the way, it was nice to see Phil Collins on there. And just so folks know, this is Phil Collins of big music fan and wonderful person from Austin, Texas. Not the drummer Phil Collins. Just.
I mean, we didn't have to tell them that.
No, it's true. I guess not.
But
There's something in the air.
Clearly, this is a song that resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Love this one, and this song will always have a place in my heart. Yeah, this is interesting that you mentioned that it wrote you. I haven't heard that one, and I'm curious when in your career did this one bubble up, and how did it kind of manifest itself?
It's so funny. It was like the first song that I ever, I was living in Taos and I sat down. I can remember where I was. I was on the river. I was like sitting on this rock, and I was just like figuring my life out. I was, in my early 20s, and I had just dropped out of college, and I had been teaching outdoor education, and I was like thinking that I was going to live off the grid in an earth ship that I was going to build for myself. And I had bought a piece of land in Taos, a 1/4 acre.
That all sounds like a really good idea right now, actually.
Right. I mean, it's right. Like all my friends that actually did that are doing great right now.
You're ahead of the
I
curve.
was like, I just had like a bit of clarity in my life, which, right, we all go in and out of these times. And it was the first moment like that I had that I felt like an adult, first of all. Like I was just like, oh, I am like a grown up human. And, I wrote the song in like I feel like it's half an hour. Like it was just like came out of me in a way that like it's so rare for a song to come out in that way. And when they do, I feel like they're always special. Like I have a handful of songs like that, and you two as songwriters could probably understand that feeling of like every now and again one comes out that doesn't require like a bunch of editing. It doesn't like
it's just there.
Right. Like, because you had nothing to do with it. You were just like this vessel in all of this that was like, I don't know who wrote that song.
Like a receptor. I've heard that analogy, almost like you're an antenna and you just happen to pick up the signal.
Right.
And it came out. No, that's very special. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Just kind of felt like that song just always existed in me. Or, I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I love that version of that song, and I had forgotten that it had been recorded a few other times before that. And but I have to say, I love the vocals on that. And one thing that I really appreciate about this record is that it really captures how you sing, like live, because it so often, especially I'd say in the last 10, 20 years, I feel like there's this trend of like people to like record their vocals really quiet, like very intimately, and then they crank it up in the mix. Yeah. But it's never like sounds like they're singing, you know? And I love that both you and Johnny are like, you can tell you are singing it.
Or like belting it out.
Yeah. And I love that because
Thank
it's a different energy and emotion when you sing that way versus when you sing more quietly.
That was like the importance to me, really, of recording the record the way that we did. Was part of it was community, and part of it was that I never felt like my vocal was captured in a way that made me happy. And I really like this record. Like the vocals aren't perfect, but they're raw and real, and it just feels like kind of the person that I am. And so I was really excited about that too. Thank you.
That's cool, yeah.
And I also like that you found a way to dance to that one too. I know that Matt commented that normally I was dancing, but I was more swaying, and you were keeping up the interpretive dance in a way that I love. I think you're going to give Jonathan Brooke a run for her money, because she was so far has been the most enthusiastic dancer during the Fat Catalog listening party. So maybe later we'll have to have a dance off at some point. But beautiful, beautiful song. And if you all out there like what you hear, you should throw something in the tip jar for Carrie, because, she's not living off the land. She still has to buy food and, all that stuff. And so throw something in the tip jar. And if you like the record, you definitely should be thinking about buying this thing, because if you hear it on CD or in the high quality digital files, it just sounds so great.
It really
you
does.
Can capture even the creaking floorboards. I mean, it just has that vibe. It's really nice.
I love that you mentioned that you had just heard the Seeger sessions before you did this, and had really wanted to emulate that, because like even that vocal comment says that's what the boss would do too.
Yeah.
You can feel it, and there's something about it that I don't know, it just screams like authentic music. I love it.
The boss and I are really a lot alike. I just noticed that at the inauguration party that the boss was using an SM58 microphone to sing into. And I put up a very controversial post on Facebook about how it's my favorite microphone of all time. And people always tried to get me to use like fancy mics at my live shows. And I'm like, I just want a 58. I don't want a beta. I don't want anything else. I'm like, the boss used a 58. The thing, I'm like, he also had the best sound man in the world.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the sound of live music, you know. I mean, you can't deny that. The sound of live music is the 58, and I think didn't Bono do a 57? Like that was like his go-to mic. I mean, it's really about the pipes.
Yeah. True. And the emotion behind the song. And there's definitely that in this record, which I really, really love. And if folks have questions for Carrie, they can throw them in the comments, or and we would love to get to them. This next song you picked out, Landeth by Sea, was this one that you landed on through the way the last one? Yeah, exactly.
Did you land?
I was trying to work that in.
I know. Sorry, I couldn't help it.
But did you come to it in a similar way as Berlin, or is this one of those like edit, try playing it out, edit?
Yeah, this one was came in much the same way as Berlin. This one I will just say came about because Danny and I, at the time when I wrote this, had just started dating, and he had been invited to go on a year-long sailing trip. We had been together for like a very short time. I don't remember how long, like a few weeks, maybe a couple months. And I was like, oh, I can't wait for us to go on that sailing trip. And he looked at me like I was like nutso. And he said, I don't know if we're still going to be together then. And I was like, because it was like a year off from that time. And I was like, well, here's the song I'm going to write for you then.
And you know what I really love about this song is that often when if you're playing a show with Danny, he'll sing on this song, which I think is like a special, like added torture. I'm going to make you sing on the song that's about you.
Totally.
I love it. The joys of being married to a songwriter.
I know. Now we're married, so you know.
Maybe if it weren't for the song, though, maybe it like kind of scared him a little bit. I don't know.
I wonder.
Danny, if you're watching, you can throw it in the comments.
We'll let all of you decide as we listen to Landeth by Sea by Carrie Elkin here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
1, 2, 3, 2, 2. I can just see you whilst you sail across the waters, and the winds will knock your heart free. And you'll take the pictures of life as a sailor, and you'll send them to me. You'll write me a story about waves that came crashing and how they helped you find peace. And I'll write you a story about my garden of daisies and tell you it's where I'm meant to be. 'Cause you found your quiet now, and I found my quiet by Landeth and by sea. And one can't exist without the other to feed it. What's that say about you and me? I've been meaning to ask about you and me. And no one ever really knows the reasons for breaking or the reasons to set a heart free. But I know I'll miss you when I'm working 'neath the willows and my hands are blistered and bleeding. And I know you'll miss me when you cast out the long line and catch fish to fill bellies of the weak. And I'm feeling full now, and you're feeling full now, by Landeth and by sea. 'neath that old willow tree. 'Cause I'm willing to take it, and I'm willing to lose it. Guess that's the way that love's supposed to be. I've been meaning to ask what love's supposed to be. And you found your quiet now, and I found my quiet by Landeth and by sea. And one can't exist without the other defeated. What's that say about you and me? I've been meaning to ask about you and me.
Carrie Elkin on the back catalog listening party. That was Landeth by Sea from her
Beautiful.
2011
Aw.
album. Yeah, Call It My Garden. And I, listening to that again, it's been a while since I'd heard the record version, and I love the interplay of the mandolin and the pedal steel. It just sounds really great.
Thanks. I know I had forgotten about the mandolin. It's so fun when I was when we were talking about the songs that we would discuss today. I was like, I haven't listened to this. You know, we don't listen to our own records, and I purposefully did not listen to it until just now. And I I love mandolin on there too. I forgot about it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It sounded. And who was that on the guitars there? Was that a pedal or was that like just a electric?
That was a lap
volume?
steel.
It was a lap steel.
And that was Colin Brooks. Colin does all the guitar work on the record and was also producing at the same time. And actually it was Trevor Smith, who is the banjo player, who was playing mandolin.
Nice.
I was just thinking about while I was listening to that song, because Danny is singing with me on that, which is really fun. And Andrew Pressman, who's playing bass, and his wife Raina Rose does all of the female background vocals on the record. They were not married at the time, and they're now married and have 2 boys. I'll just tell you that this story ended up great. But during the recording of this record, I found out like much later that they were breaking up over text message while we were all in the same room.
Oh my goodness.
Which is so funny to think of now, because they're like the most beautifully functional couple with like 2 boys and are just, you know, they're amazing and totally rocking it as humans. And at that time, you know, however long ago that was, 11 years ago, 10
Wow.
years ago. 10 years ago, they were just like, isn't that? I'm sure they would love that I shared that. Well, that's what they get for not being here. They were going to be here, and then they were like, "Oh my God, we can't do it. The boys are being nutso." So,
It's a happy ending, and
it's so happy.
that's the kind of stuff that happens during these types of things. Like,
I mean, who
recording
doesn't
sessions.
break up during a Carrie Elkin recording?
Well, of course,
She wrote a song for him.
Right.
You done for me.
oh, ooh.
Oops, sorry about that.
I was like, maybe that's
Oh,
Raina.
I kind of
I thought it was
thought
Raina. I thought it was Raina or Andrew calling in.
I think it might have been.
to get
I
their
think it
side
might
of
have
the
been.
story.
God, that would be kind of awesome to have a call-in feature.
Well, we do have a call-in feature, folks. Jump in the comments if you want to refute the story, if you want to add something to the story, if you want to embellish the story,
Or share your story of breaking up during a Carrie Elkin recording session.
That's
you know.
Were you also in the room?
There could have been. There was a lot of people in
There
that
were.
recording session. So.
I'd like to think that it actually, you know, held everyone together in the end.
The glue, yes.
It did, yes.
Well, we got a couple questions a little while back. Olin, I'm not sure how you say your name, but he was asking, they were asking about Dear Sam, which is a track we're not going to get to today on the show, but it's a beautiful song, and maybe you could talk a little bit about the story behind that song.
Yeah. So the song is about Sam Baker, and we recorded the whole record in Sam's house. And for those of you that don't know Sam, I highly recommend looking him up. He's an amazing singer-songwriter and human being. He was our wedding officiant, and I toured with him for years as part of his band. And he, back in the 80s, was in Peru and was on a train, and a terrorist bomb went off on the train, and he was one of the only survivors on the train. And he, as you can imagine, went through an extremely traumatic experience and saw people all around him die. And it, he chose to take this thing that happened to him and create a beautiful existence out of his life. Like, he's truly a beautiful human being. And so I wrote a song for him to thank him for allowing me to use his home, which was a home that I was really comfortable in because we were close friends and we had a lot of dinner parties there. Remember dinner parties? We'll get to have them again. But it was a really special time to be able to be in his house. So Sam actually sings this song with me. Sam does not actually consider himself to be a singer, especially at that time. He didn't. He sang so that he could express his songs. It was his way of, and no one else could sing his songs. His songs are his songs, and so that is where the Dear Sam song comes from. And yeah, you can hear him singing kind of quietly in the background. Thanks for asking that question. Actually, I almost put that on the playlist for today, and I chose not to, but I kind of wish I would have.
Well, now you can, if you buy the record from Carrie's website or go find it on the digital platforms, you can check out that song because it is a beautiful song.
Thank you.
And the album's just great from start to finish. And we're going to try and squeeze in another tune or two here on the show. And this song is Guilty Hands. Is there anything you want to say about this before we dive in?
Well, I wrote this song because I grew up singing in church, in the Lutheran church. And I got my very first church solo when I was 9, and I was so excited. And so the church solo had this part in it, the Ubi Caritas part, which you'll hear in the song. I included it in this song. I've just always felt guilty. I never understood my guilt. Like, Lutherans have a lot of guilt, obviously, but mine was to the extreme. And then I found out years later that I'm actually Jewish by blood. And then I was like, oh, it all makes sense now. So I wrote this song. It's based on that solo that I had and how that was sort of a now looking back, like a turning point in my life of, I love to sing.
All right. This is Carrie Elkin, Guilty Hands, on the back catalog listening party.
Put my hand upon the Bible, put my hand upon the Bible, drank wine from the well, I drank wine from the well. I dreamt about Gethsemane, where Jesus hung his head and prayed. He hung his head and he prayed. Dear God, I am so sorrowful, is there no other way? Put my hand upon the Bible, put my hand upon the Bible. I tried to believe, oh, I tried to believe. The olive tree bent over him, the olive tree bent over him, and all I could say is, what have you done? church. I blew the roof off the church. I was singing out my demons. I was singing out my demons. Dear God, please forgive me. It's the only way I know to be. Oh, dear God, please forgive me. It's the only way I know to be. And ubi caritas, et amor, ubi caritas, Deus ibi en, ubi caritas, et amor, ubi caritas, Deus ibi en. Ubi caritas, et amor, ubi caritas, Deus ibi Guilty hand upon the Bible, guilty hand upon the Bible. I tried to believe. Oh, I tried to believe.
All right.
Yeah.
Carrie Elkin on the back catalog listening party with Guilty Hands from her 2011 release, Call It My Garden, which we have been revisiting today on the show. And so great. So I have a few things to say. One is since we were kind of going to church a little bit on that tune, getting a little snapshot of Carrie and her younger self, it seems only appropriate that we pass around the collection plate for Carrie today on the back catalog listening party, since she can't tour the way she normally does. So you can tip her there, and again, buy the record. It sounds great. And I have to say, I really love the slinky kind of saloon vibe of that. The rhythms on it, especially in the beginning, are really cool. Was that always how you envisioned it, or did that come out of this record? Just a bunch of people in the house recording.
I think the latter. Yeah, I think it came out that way. I was just thinking too, like listening to that song. I was not like any like rhythmically. I'm never like in time, and thankfully I was recording with my bestest of friends who understood the way I like swing in and out of certain parts of songs because
Interpretive rhythms.
it was it would have been a disaster had I not been with people that I actually like love and like have played music with me before. So
Well, I mean, that probably would get you in trouble in the Lutheran choir. So
right.
Oh, and Chris said, and I think what he meant is sign the CD.
Yes.
But I was actually realizing at first I thought he meant like ASL. I was like, I don't know, that would be really cool.
Well, no,
I can do the alphabet.
Well, I had just posted this here. Yes, you
Yes.
want your own copy of the
Yes.
album. And this is a good question because some of our regulars love to get signed copies of albums. Are you sending them from home, and would you sign them? with
I
Guilty
will
Hands?
send them from home, and I would love to sign them. Also, records have been, coming with an original piece of artwork from our 4-year-old as of late.
No
which,
way.
Awesome.
We're not. I don't usually tell people that, but I will tell
Inside
you.
scoop.
Yeah.
Inside scoop. And I will say, for a 4-year-old, Maisie has an amazing, all kids have an amazing outlook on the world, but I've been seeing her artwork on Facebook, and she does these amazing long, tall, surreal pigs. They're like tall and skinny and amazing. I'm just saying. She's got something going. She is like
Well,
I
you
don't
two
know.
could own one
Just
of
saying.
these masterpieces.
Long, tall pigs.
Yes, if just go to carrieelkin.com and
course.
pick up the CD and some other music as well.
Of course, I say that now. She's going to be like, "I'm done with pigs."
I know
It's all
she's gonna
ducks.
quit the pigs one day, and I'm gonna be sad. But I'm sure she'll be on to something else cool.
Exactly. Well, this has been so much fun, Carrie, to have you on the show today. And,
Thank
talk
you.
about this record. If you like what you heard today, this whole show will be up on YouTube, and so you can share it with your friends, like it, and also subscribe to our channel so that you can find out about future guests. And see what's going on with us. And but mainly tip Carrie, get the
Yes.
record, and
All of those things.
all of those things, because we want Carrie and Danny to come back out on the road for us selfishly in the Twin Cities
Yeah.
when that happens again. So,
It's a tough time out there. Normally they'd be playing how many dates a year, and a little bit goes a long way just to let them know that you're out there waiting for them and you appreciate what they do and you want to hear the next record. So the information's there in the comments, scrolling across the screen, and I know she would appreciate it.
Thank
yes.
you.
And also, we want to thank all our Patreon supporters who help us out every week, and they have helped us launch a real website where you can also check out all these episodes, and you can get access to VIP parties, after parties, special private Zoom concerts, and you can become a part of it too. But we want to thank Penny, Ann, Alinda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, John, Fred, and Tim, and maybe you.
Thank you guys so much.
Yes. So,
Do it.
so
Do
much.
it.
And
Oh.
we can't believe we've done 44 episodes, and
That's
it's really only
crazy.
because you guys all keep tuning in and supporting it. Tony just called me up and was like, "I have this idea. I'm kind of bored and miss my music people during the pandemic," and then here we are. So, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, we sure appreciate all of you for tuning in, and we thanks again, Carrie, for spending this
So
hour
much
with us.
fun.
This
Oh
was
my
so much
gosh,
fun.
thank you. This was such a joy. I had no idea what it would be like, and I had such a great time. Thank you. Thank
Well,
you all for tuning in.
and say hi to Danny and Maisie, and we will see the rest of you all back here next Friday at 4 p.m. Central for another edition of the Back Catalog Listening Party. Next week, let's see what's next week, February 5th. Next week we have Martin Zeller of the Gear Daddies.
Oh
Very
yeah,
excited.
I'm
So
excited about that
That's
one.
going to be a fun one. So tune in for that. We might talk about Zambonis. We might have to.
Most definitely.
Probably. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
Mwah, mwah.
Cheers.